In this video we are going to take a closer look at the highest ranked Deathwatch unit available on the tabletop, the Watchmaster. After having become a staple of late 9th edition competitive lists, how well did the Watchmaster transition into 10th edition? In order to answer this, we will first take a look at his datasheet, abilities and wargear. Then we will also take a look at some of his greatest competitors, before going through how to specifically make use of him in a Deathwatch army these days. Lastly, there will be some modeling recommendations and a quick wrap up.
Welcome to SwissHammer, your channel for modeling in Warhammer 40k. My name is Tammer, and I will be guiding you through this video.
Diving right into his datasheet, the Watchmaster remains at his last 9th edition points value of 115, which might be perceived on the upper end of the scale, given that points came down across the board, but as we will find out in just a moment, this is a price well worth paying. In line with his points, much of his stats line remains the same as it was in 9th edition. While he still rocks his 2+ armor and 4+ invul save, he actually lost a wound, so this is something to keep in mind for the more veteran players, having made good use of him in the previous edition. Furthermore, due to special issue ammunition having been moved to stratagems, the Vigil Spear ends up with a worse shooting profile. It used to be one of the few weapons that actually had special issue ammunition back in 9th edition. In turn, the melee output of the spear got boosted to 6 attacks at strength 6, AP-2 and damage T3, which is pretty solid output in this new edition. For keywords, he gets both the Captain as well as the Watchmaster keyword, with the latter being the Chapter Master equivalent for a Deathwatch army. For abilities, the Watchmaster gets Strategic Knowledge, which allows the unit he is leading to shoot and declare a charge in a turn in which it advanced or fell back. Furthermore, he then also gets the Watchmaster ability, in which case if he is the Warlord and on the battlefield, he can increase the stratagem of your opponent by 1 CP for the rest of the battle after it has been played. This is what we commonly refer to as VEC, an immensely powerful ability that can really mess with an opponent's game plan. Then a quick word on enhancement. The underwhelming Osseous Key is exclusive to a Watchmaster or a Tech Marine, and the highly competitive Tome of Ectoclades is exclusive to a Watchmaster or a Captain. For the Tomb in particular, the Watchmaster makes a good candidate, because just as it is with the Watchmaster ability, the bearer must be on the battlefield in order to use it, creating some great synergy there. Last but not least, he can be attached to both Deathwatch Veterans and the Proteus Kill Team as their leader, which is a bit of a narrow selection of options, but at least as it currently stands, both of these are units that we would want to have in our lists. For more information on the Proteus Kill Team, feel free to check out my dedicated guide, the link is in the description. While the Watchmaster makes for a solid package overall, with a corresponding price tag, a quick word on some of his competitors. As far as I'm concerned, there are two main considerations here. First, as I previously mentioned, the Watchmaster can attach to a very limited number of units. In turn, a Firstborn Captain has more options, a good fighting profile, an amazing special ability Rites of War, as well as a cheaper price tag, and he can also carry the Tomb. Ultimately, I think that a competitive Deathwatch list can well afford to make room for both a Watchmaster and a Captain, but there might be cases where we have to pick between the two, and while I would personally lean more towards the Watchmaster for his vect ability, if it really came down to that decision, there might be some lists where points considerations end up having the final word. Having said all that, how can we best use the Watchmaster in the Deathwatch? Well, while I generally hesitate to give a generic auto-include to certain units, for me the Watchmaster certainly ranks very highly on that potential list. As far as I'm concerned, there are two main strategies for running him. The first, and in my book optimal one, would be attaching him to a shooty Proteus Kill Team, which will benefit from his strategic knowledge ability, as well as allow him to remain on the board more easily. As previously mentioned, both his Vect as well as a potential tomb require him to remain on the board, and the shooty Proteus Kill Team, with the option to advance and still shoot, is less likely to end up being a target for teleportarium. Furthermore, even a shooty Proteus Kill Team can still pack some punch in close combat, primarily thanks to the obligatory 4 Terminators, to which the Watchmaster can add with his Vigil Spear. Then as an alternative, I could also see the Watchmaster being used in combination with either a melee unit of Deathwatch Veterans or a melee Proteus Kill Team, which will benefit from advance and charge, but I also think that these might be a target more likely used in combination with Teleportarium, in which case this might interfere with the Watchmaster ability. In a more melee-oriented unit, one could also think about putting the Thief of Secrets on the Watchmaster to give him an additional punch on top of an already great melee profile. Then lastly, one could also consider bringing both a Watchmaster as well as a Calidus Assassin, allowing us to double whack, and yes, this will stack, and in case your opponent has access to any 0 CP stratagems, the whack applies after the discount, so these will go up to 1 CP or even 2 with a Calidus. This can severely impact an opponent's game plan, especially now that stratagems are so few and far more likely to be built around. All in all, I rate the Watchmaster as highly competitive, and as I initially mentioned, as it currently stands, he's a staple of my current lists, where I am using him in combination with a shooty Proteus Kill Team. If you have not been using him at this point, I highly recommend giving him a try. With that being said, let's have a look at some modeling recommendations. But Temmer, the guy has a single loadout and no customization options? Well, yes, but we are the Deathwatch, and for me personally, one of my biggest regrets is not having customized my Watchmaster more. While I have a dislike for unhelmeted Space Marines, no small thanks to reading the Horus Heresy books I suppose, slapping on a helmet is basically all I did, and now I always feel like he's falling short of being that Chapter Master equivalent. Over the recent months, I have seen a great many fantastic conversions, and what I always liked the most were the dynamic poses and giving him a more imposing spear, such as one from the Custodian Guards. Furthermore, GW announced prior to the launch of 10th edition that all factions will get at least one new model. Now, while we currently don't know what this might be for the Deathwatch, and it is most likely going to be quite a while until we find out, there might be the possibility that they end up making a Primaris version of the Watchmaster. So how to go about this when building one just now? Well, my recommendation would be to magnetize both of his arms, and in case there will indeed be a new Primaris datasheet, we could always repurpose our old firstborn Watchmaster to a fancy looking captain by giving him a fitting loadout. To wrap things up, over the course of the video, we have looked at the Watchmaster, the Chapter Master equivalent of the Deathwatch, and how he transitioned into 10th edition. While his price tag of 115 points might look a bit discouraging at first, the Watchmaster comes with a solid stats line and excellent abilities, allowing the unit he is leading, which can either be Deathwatch Veterans or a Proteus Kill Team, to still shoot or charge after advancing or falling back. Furthermore, he also comes with a Vect ability, which can increase the cost of a stratagem of your opponent by 1 for the rest of the battle after it has been played, but in order to play this, the Watchmaster has to be on the board. The same goes for activating the Tomb of Ectoclades, which can either go on a Watchmaster or a Captain. As such, my personal preference is using the Watchmaster in combination with the shooty Proteus Kill Team, which benefits from his strategic knowledge ability, as well as allowing him to be on the board more than what might happen when he attaches to more melee-oriented variants. Then lastly, while the default model has no big customization options, I think this is one of those cases where kit bashing wins over just buying the default one. At least I wish I had been more creative when building mine, and I would also magnetize his weapon arms at this point in order to keep him playable as another datasheet in case GW blesses us with a Primaris version at some point in the future of 10th edition. One can dream. So that's it for the Watchmaster in the Deathwatch in 10th edition. Have you guys been including him into your lists? And what units are you attaching him to? Any important rules or strategies that I missed? Let me know in the comments. Then finally, if you made it this far and I still have your attention, if you like my content, any additional support is greatly appreciated as it helps me invest into future videos. For that, I have both a Ko-fi as well as a Patreon page, links are in the description. Furthermore, I would also like to mention that there is a SwissHammer Facebook page where I will be posting links to my videos as well as articles I find of interest. I do read a lot about the hobby, but not all of it will always end up as its own video. I look forward to seeing you there as well. As always, thank you very much for watching, guys. Your continued support is greatly appreciated. I hope you have been enjoying this video. Give me a thumbs up if you did, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done so already. Thanks again and see you next time.